What does it mean to be an American?
A fundamental value of our nation is access to equal, quality education. Special education does not mean separate education. Equality in our schools is absolutely necessary.
This is my right to be a part of your community. This is my right to live in your world.
Every child has a right to an education and a right to reach these for the most independence and most education and most possible.
Being American means inclusivity of all people and equal opportunity. Students with disabilities have been constantly disrespected as a result of an unorganized system.
Fulfilling our obligations to support students with disabilities is about fulfilling our responsibility as a democracy.
The Individuals with Disability Education Act passed in 1975 and established the precedent that each child with a disability has to be placed in the least restrictive environment possible.
And what it's basically saying is we know that students who are exposed to non-disabled peers often do better. But we also need to make sure there's accommodations, modifications, services, supports.
It also established the need for an IEP, an individualized education plan, which gives each student their own classroom routine and spells out every accommodation needed.
My usual classroom setting is basically like a regular classroom as usual, but usually it's a co-teacher that will help IEP kids or somebody who really needs help in the class.
Different school systems handle this better than others.
They really don't take the time and care you need for IEP. They just put you in a different classroom.
However, the precedent itself falls under federal territory.
Part of the responsibility of the Education Department is to make sure that states and districts are fulfilling their responsibilities to students with disabilities. It's really a civil rights protection issue.
According to the U.S. Department of Education, only 16% of students with intellectual disabilities are in mainstream classrooms 80% of the day or morning. This number varies for those with physical disabilities, which is why many school systems can get away with not including students with more severe disabilities.
We're looking at measuring the progress of all children. Even children who have significant disabilities, all children can make progress. And if there isn't that belief, and if we're not measuring how those children are making progress, then frequently they're not going to make the progress they need.
Integration has an incredibly positive impact on the students. When children with disabilities are not separated from their peers without disabilities, later in life they are more likely to be included with these peers as there is less of a gap between them. Many students' lives have improved significantly after being integrated into public schools.
She now is much more adaptable than I think she would have been. I think she is accepted in many more settings than she would have been. And I think I would have missed a whole lot of the joy.
This is a legal right of students, and parents shouldn't have to fight this hard to get it. Students with disabilities being included also benefits the students without disabilities. It creates an inclusive school environment, which promotes the ideals of the American education system. Children learn through experience, and therefore inclusive education settings enable children to learn about diversity as well as respecting and promoting positive values. However, many school systems believe they aren't given enough funding to support students with disabilities. There is funding given to each school system for special education, but it's funneled into separate schools, and the money is used to reinforce the separation.
Education itself needs more funding, and that would benefit disabled students. We need to be putting more money into teacher training.
The Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 prohibited discrimination on the basis of disabilities and established it as a civil rights issue.
All of us here in this room support the ADA, support Americans with disabilities. We promote it. We think it's great for America.
The act applies to public places, including schools.
Society has tended to isolate and segregate people with disabilities, and despite some progress, discrimination, quote, continues to be a serious and pervasive social problem.
Students of color with disabilities are at an even higher risk of discrimination and neglect, leading to a larger disadvantage in life after school.
We know that students of color and students with disabilities are disproportionately subject to exclusionary discipline, meaning they're suspended or expelled from school.
If children of different racial backgrounds are in a school district where non-disabled students of color are not necessarily getting the level of education they should be, then those students will also be affected in a more negative way.
As Americans, we strive to be included in society and have the same opportunities as our peers. We must respect the laws that ensure these rights to all people, because everyone deserves them.
I believe it starts with the children.
If we want everyone to have access to opportunity, if we want everyone to be able to participate, we need to make sure everyone has a quality education.